This is a wondrous occasion, lecture hall and epilogue. I want to start by thanking those who organized the event and thank all of you for coming. This is a wonderful way to honor faculty who are retiring. Last year we had two distinguished retiring professors speak, Dr. Dick Grace, who I met with today, and Jane Perrell, who's here today. And so this is a wonderful way not only to honor those who are retiring, but also to allow them a chance to tell their story. And I think you'll hear an interesting story today. And there's a lot of nervous people here. Donna, you can count me as the first one. But I'm not going to introduce Donna. I have the honor of introducing Professor Paul OMalley, who's going to do that honor. And so please enjoy. Paul?
Thank you, I hope my introduction measures up to the high standards that qualify, that characterize everything that Donna McCaffrey has done and will do. Our glorious retired Donna Teresa McCaffrey is going to grace us this afternoon in typically splendid McCaffrey style with a reflection on Providence College, the school to which she has devoted the greater part of her life. Introducing our Donna is an honor that humbles me to the core, but let me lay out one part of the record of achievements that constitutes the McCaffrey tenure at our beloved Friar campus. This special daughter of an exceptional family arrived here in tandem with the first full class of women in the fall of 1971. A newly minted history and psychology graduate and star basketball player from Dominican College of Blauvelt, she proceeded to earn simultaneously 3 Providence College graduate degrees, and more than anyone else, to shape the successful incorporation of women into our college community. One of the first women RAs in 1971-72, a head resident from 1972 to 1986, she became director of residence for women from 1973 to 1985 as one of the original triumvirate of women administrators, along with Helen Burt and Sally Thibodeau. Sally, hello. She supervised and counseled superbly approximately, believe it or not, 20,000 women in the first 15 years of PC coeducation. She went on to lead the discipline office from 1987 to 1996, having earned the MA and PhD in history and the MA in theology here. She was well positioned to become a force for academic excellence. She served as an academic dean in 1994-95, liberal arts honors coordinator for 12 years for the School of Continuing Education, and then director of Asian Studies. Nevertheless, one might argue that her greatest impact was exercised in the classroom. Donna herself was a singular student, as she secured most of her master's degrees with distinction, but her finest academic credential was her doctoral degree in history. Donna's dissertation, which I had the privilege of directing, was a seminal history of Providence College from its foundation to the threshold of its slaven years. Her excellent plumbing of primary sources has made her dissertation a must-read for anyone desiring to understand the vision of Bishop Hawkins and the Dominicans of the province of St. Joseph that led to a solid, inspirational, and influential institution of higher learning from its formative decades. Donna began her service in the lecture hall as a faculty member in the Department of History, chaired by the kindly, scholarly, and gifted priest professor, Father Cornelius Philip Forster, O.P. He was Donna's gentle and incisive mentor as she advanced from special lecturer to assistant professor. What a force she has been in the classroom. Her versatility is legendary. She has taught outstanding courses in 18th and 19th century Europe, a variety of lecture and seminar courses in medieval history, and more recently a new course, a course in the new DWC. In the graduate history program, which I direct, her required historical methodology has functioned as a valuable entree for students into the historical discipline. All of Donna's courses were marked by precise attention to detail, careful organization, and a continuous commitment to making students aware of the dynamics of historical interpretation. At every level of instruction, Donna's students were enthusiastic in their praise of her methods of instruction and in the impressive content of her lectures. Nevertheless, I must conclude my introduction by remarking what is by far Donna's finest gift to Providence College, namely the never-ending love she has lavished on our students. In the women's dorms, she showered our women with hours of concerned counseling. She was a wonderful exemplar of the diocesan and Dominican mission that crafted our college. Likewise, in our courses, Donna was not simply a splendid lecturer. She had a rare gift for engagement with her students beyond tests and course papers. She knew every one of her students well and reached out consistently, especially to students experiencing academic and personal challenges. Her greatest gift to her students, indeed, has been her profound concern for each and every one of them. Indeed, she herself has been a wonderful gift to them and to all of us, colleagues, staff, to a beautiful family, her generous mom and dad, her giving sister and brother-in-law, her nieces and nephew, and her growing little tribe, and to the many friends who value her friendship, more often than not, for a lifetime. I personally thank you, Donna, for the privilege of our friendship. Donna will now share her insightful reflections on the history of Providence College based on her 44 fantastic years here of study, instruction, service, and presence. Dr. Donna McCaffrey.
Now, save it till I finish. You may not want to clap again. Thank you. Thank you. It's very kind. Very kind. I thought of many things to think. An epilogue. Bob Deasy always wanted to publish The Secret History of Providence College. And he kept a record, which I'm hoping that he gave. That I figured I better not do today. All right? And I'm looking around. I think there's still people here who owe me fines from the dorms. All right? Don't you laugh. I have a dean out here. I have lots of different yeah, okay. So I thought to myself, hi, Barbara. Oh, my God. I'm just looking at the teams that were here. The great years, the great people. Oh, my word. Okay? So I'm honored. All right? 12 of us are retiring. They asked us if we wanted to speak. And you got me. So I don't know what that tells you, whether it's good or bad. But I thought to myself, okay, that let me make it real. Let me make a statement of things that I've seen from research, things that I know. Probably the only other one who knows what I know is Paul OMalley, because he directed the work. This is my book, okay? 522 pages on the early history, okay, of Providence College to 1947. You got to be kidding, okay? All right. So what I thought about, serious, not serious, I'll try and integrate both. This is my 5th decade at PC. That's scary, okay? PC is in her 10th decade. I've been here for half of the time. I didn't think of myself as old. PC will soon celebrate her centennial in 2017. And my published book, I love this, everybody quotes from it, but nobody cites it. That's a mortal sin for historians. Ask Jane Jackson, okay? I had planned to edit and bring the history to the present in time for the centennial. But time may be against me, as many of you know. But hope always springs eternal. Who's to know here? So what I decided to do today is to share some great moments of PC history, and my theme is simple. PC, transforming crisis into challenge, into triumph. And I'll flavor it with my research, and then when I arrived here, the personal reminiscence. So then you'll leave at least knowing how dramatic it has been to get where we are today. Okay, let me start. The history of PC has been intimately connected since its founding with the history of the Order of Preachers. They're coming up on 800 years. Okay, that's wild. All right, how do the two are so closely aligned. It all started with a nobleman, Dominic Guzman, a Spanish nobleman, university educated. He should have been a snob, he wasn't. All right, when you think back and look the way he looked at it, he embraced poverty. He believed that the Catholic Church was facing a crisis in the early 13th century. Dominic, looked around. He had the influx of heretical ideas, the new fads, the new theories. He was worried. And particularly a group of Albigensians whose ideal thing was to commit suicide when you got to the purification. Dear God. All right, at least we haven't gone that far in the 21st century. So Dominic had an idea to gather well-educated young men for, and I quote, the preaching and the salvation of souls. Dominic petitioned the papacy, and on December 22nd, 1216, Pope Honorius III declared the order inviolate for all time to come. In an accompanying letter, a bull, to Dominic, the Pope told him, and I quote again, "Your order will be the champions of the faith and the true light of the world." Dominic's first Dominicans, and I love this, were women. Okay? He gathered a group of contemplative women who prayed for Dominic's young order and its success and mission, and later themselves will become some of the greatest teachers in modern and educators in modern times. Dominic immediately did what people thought was, a bit insane. He sent his young Dominicans to study. He dispersed them at the great European universities, where they went to study. In medieval manner, they had to stay to learn and then to teach. And as the order grew numerically and geographically, it established a network of schools, priory schools, provincial schools, and general houses of study, which really formed, as Father Neely once wrote, a distributed university. Educated Dominicans faced the crisis as challenge, changed it to challenge, and attracted students and professors to join the order. By 1248, learning centers of Dominicans were established all across the important places of Europe: Oxford, Cologne, Montpellier, Bologna, Florence, Genoa, Toulouse, Barcelona. I wish it was on Price is Right and won. A visitation to each one of the, a nice little vacation. Be nice. Maybe we should, have a raffle at PC and raise money. There they went, all right. And the Dominicans in this monumental work just kept progressing. Thomas Aquinas, somewhat later, he said, "Look, I'll affirm this. Study is needed for teaching aids, and it's a teaching aid to contemplation." And in his Summa, he said, "The mind needs truth. It needs truth to enlighten it. And preachers and teachers must study truth so that they can communicate it correctly." And that's our motto, Veritas, truth. Sometimes I think we forget recently, but I'm going to bring that back later as a theme at the end, okay? Dominic's order addressed the crisis of heresy and exploded into a triumphant teaching force throughout Europe. Now, although they concentrated in the field of sacred sciences, theology, and philosophy, Dominic's scholars, preachers, and writers and teachers, they also looked at the needs of the society. And their mission, they eventually made contributions to almost every field of human endeavor in the arts and crafts, architectural history, medicine, agrarian economy, military science. Dear Lord, there was nothing that they feared in seeking the truth and government. All of this in pursuit of truth. Centuries later, this heritage of the Dominican teaching apostolate was vibrant in the heart of a Dominican, Father Edward Dominic Fenwick, studied abroad, and when he returned from Europe in November 1804, he came to America to begin his American Dominican Foundation with a college. His family was wealthy, he had the land, he was all set. He was invited by Bishop Carroll. Whoops. All of a sudden, when they got here, the first U.S. Bishop, John Carroll, deferred this goal and asked the Dominicans to alleviate a desperate crisis on the American frontier, which at that time was Kentucky. Nobody went to Kentucky, God. To take the college, table the college idea and go where the need for priests was great. The heroic saga of leadership, degree, I think I need my glasses. I just love, I had cataract surgery, so now I can see and I can't. Why do we do these things? Thank you. Oh my God. And it's my own handwriting here. I didn't even type this. Is it too high? No one's ever said that to me. Okay, how's that? Better? All right, then I better pick this up. Okay. The heroic saga of hardship, endurance, faith, and the magnificent pioneer ministry of the early Kentucky Dominicans on the continent westward throughout the 19th century. Where's the college? Where's the group? Where's the idea? Well, the agrarian, here again, the order rose to meet the problem, and crisis was turned into challenge, into triumph. But the college idea, all right, never did take hold. They'd opened some schools. I won't go into all that. As the 19th century progressed, all right, the idea is still there. And when the American bishops met at the three plenary councils in Baltimore in 1852, 1866, and 1884, they faced another crisis. They gravely noted that the American Catholic Church was terribly challenged in crisis. The church faced an overwhelming influx of poor Catholic immigrants, 2 million between 1850 and 70, over 5 million in the 1880s. And in 1884, at that plenary council, a young priest came as theologian to the Archbishop of Boston. His name was Matthew Hawkins. He attended, and he understood the crisis, the influx of the immigrants. He had in his heart, we need to address this. He realized very clearly that the United States was beset by a vicious nativist anti-Catholic movement, and that the immigrants, particularly Catholic immigrants, were persecuted by strong prejudice ingrained in a predominantly Protestant country. The bishops believed immigration and its problems, they would have to do schools. They'd have to bring these people into a new level of education. 3 years later, on April 14th, 1887, the 41-year-old Hawkins was consecrated Bishop of Providence. God does have a sense of humor. I'm convinced of it. He made the crisis a challenge, and he began a gargantuan educational program for the diocese. The crowning triumph was the establishment of his Catholic college. All right, disappointed with the other orders who he tried to invite to staff it, like Jesuits and Christian Brothers, etc., Bishop Hawkins was able to coerce and convince and extend an invitation to the Dominicans of the province of St. Joseph. On August 3rd, 1910, he made the first attempt to bring the Dominicans to his diocese. On November 24th, 1910, which I had informed us here at the college we should start celebrating the centennial then, and nobody listened to me, so it's a little later now that we're starting. All right. On November 24th, 1910, Provincial Matthew Leo Hagen placed before the Provincial Council a petition from Bishop Hawkins of Providence inviting the Dominicans to undertake the establishment of his new college in the city of Providence, Rhode Island. Internal constitutional problems about should we have a college or not, by the Master General of the Dominican Order. They were going through all sorts of internal legalistic arguments. But Bishop Hawkins continued to buy property. He bought 12 and a half acres in 1911 and 6.5 acres continuously from the Bradley estate in 1913. He figured, I got them. I'll get them eventually. Challenge turned into triumph with the election of two people. James Raymond Marr, and we're looking at the building. I lived in that when they climbed up the sides to break in. As provincial in October of 1913, and the great Dutchman, Father Louis Deisling, was elected Master General of the order and took up residence in Rome in August of 1916. These visionaries saw the foundation of the college idea and sought to make the dream a reality. Yes, we'll do this. Bishop Hawkins pursued the legal establishment of the college. The governor of Rhode Island, Robert Beekman, on February 14th, 1917. We can have a party then, too. I have lots of dates for parties here. So I'm assuming you'll make sure I get invited back to these? Okay. Thank you. On February 14th, 1917, he signed the act to incorporate Providence College into law. Now, the Dominicans were well represented on the new corporation, but it was chaired by the bishop's delegate, Monsignor Blessing, and many diocesan. It was a mixed board of Dominicans and diocesan priests. Papal permission, the Beneplacitum Apostolicum, to found PC was received on February 24th, 1917, and then Master General Deisling signed the orders and established it as a Dominican founding. And then, of course, the submarine hit the boat with the things, and it got sunk, and, we really had a lot of trouble here getting started. The triumph, though, of founding the, taking crisis to challenge, to triumph has happened here. But we have in here a little problem, all right? The Mixed Diocesan Dominican Corporation soon provoked the next major crisis for PC, one that's going to take 17 years to resolve, in which some people don't think it ever occurred, but it did. An involvement in World War I delayed the opening of the college. PC was supposed to open September 22nd, 1918. Enrollment, no, we're delayed. Providence College was planned to, then we'll go the next year. So in the spring, on the anniversary of Matthew Hawkins' 50th ordination date, May 29th, 1919, we're going to dedicate the college, and then we'll open in September. Nothing's easy here. It's still, I guess, we're all of us who work here still know that? Okay. All of our students who struggled here may still know it also, though they love it. It's amazing how we love it. Aging and ailing at that, dedication, Bishop Hawkins rose slowly at the end of the ceremony to give a final unscheduled blessing. The rain, see, God has a sense of humor. The rain stopped. Okay, the sun came out. Everybody knelt on the wet grass in front of Hawkins, and he blessed them. And the whole thing began then. The emotion was picked up in every secular paper in the state of Rhode Island. 2 months later, on July 28, 1919, the PC Corporation elected Bishop Hawkins' successor, Bishop William A. Hickey, as president of the corporation. He had a very different view. He distinctly viewed Providence College as a diocesan institution under his jurisdiction, all right, over which his pastoral control would be extended. The college opened under that view on September 18, 1919. It had 7 students and 9 Dominican faculty, and only took me 6 months of going through records to establish the real number that nobody had right. Okay, for what it's worth, okay? This crisis of diocesan versus Dominican loomed largely. On May 11, 1923, the second president, William D. Noon, reported to the provincial Father Marr that Bishop Hickey, and I quote, has become a maniac on the question of episcopal authority. I omitted some other things that I didn't think he would want made public. He forcefully claimed that PC is a diocesan institution. The Dominicans are here. They are working. They have blood in the soil almost. Patience, diplomacy, prayer, tactful persistence on the part of these early Dominicans moved this to a challenge, from crisis to challenge. And the Dominicans pursued a pedagogy which was 800, at that point 700 years old, basically the scholastic system adopted from Aristotle and the ancient Greeks, Christianized by St. Thomas Aquinas and Albertus Magnus, and successfully, dramatically carried out by the order of preachers for 7 centuries in the great universities. The Dominicans won the heart of their students here with that kind of curriculum. The alumni spoke highly. No one wanted the Dominicans to leave. No one wanted this to be a diocesan except the bishop, who had the last say. The people of Rhode Island. The challenge became a triumph here again. President Lorenzo Cornelius McCarthy, one of the best we've ever had, for which we have no building named. I wonder about these things sometimes. He made sure that every Dominican who was ever on the corporation, who had left and gone elsewhere, showed up for the meetings, just to be able to keep the number where they couldn't put through a resolution that asked the Dominicans to leave or asked the Dominicans to become a diocesan college. He just waited patiently. But it wasn't until Bishop Kehoe replaced Bishop Hickey on February 1934 that things are finally resolved. Father McCarthy was instructed by the provincial then Terence McDermott. They didn't get along. Did you know that? That's why we have our sense of humor, Maw and McDermott facing each other. What do they have in between? Aquinas. We do have a sense of humor. You have to know these things to appreciate what goes on here. So here's the president, instructed by his provincial, make clear to the new bishop that PC is a Dominican institution owned by the Dominican order and not by the diocese or the bishop. How would you like to be that president and have to do that job? McCarthy took a deep breath, said a prayer. He arranged a meeting with the bishop-elect, and on May 11, 1934, he was able to tell the provincial that Bishop Kehoe remarked, "It takes two to make a fight, and I won't be one of them." And so with diplomacy, patience, prayer, remained president of the corporation, but a united front was presented to the public and Catholics of the diocese. I like that one. Yeah, okay. But the majority of seats on the corporation were now Dominican. And so we have here an interesting thing. The diocese still held up a considerable sum of money collected in the PC drive by Bishop Hickey. He never turned it over. That was his little... Okay, we'll leave that. Let him rest in peace, okay? So what I'm telling you here is to dispel misnomers. For 17 years, the crisis of Dominican versus diocesan was turned into a challenge, all right, that was finally a triumph because of the noble work of these early Dominicans, ensuring the Dominican identity of PC. Okay, crisis 4 and 5, I'll kind of combine them, all right? These are the things I think that we could have lost any minute, any time with each one of these, and we're still here. That's why I'm bringing them to your attention. This was not easy to do this. 4 and 5. The next two crucial crises faced as a challenge were the plummeting enrollments during World War II and in the turbulent 1960s. Presidents Father John Dillon and Frederick Foley, number 4 and 5, resisted government takeover of PC and opened the college's doors to soldiers and veterans. The fall enrollment plummeted from 850 in 1941 to 182 in 1943 and 162 in fall in the next fall. Everyone here, we're going to close. We just don't have the students. And closure loomed. In January 1942, PC, however, was one of the first to join the national educational war effort and instituted a trimester system to graduate a student before he turned 20, which was the original draft age. So we're going to join the war effort, we're going to stay open, we're going to stay Dominican. The need for trained personnel for the war and the leadership, we presented that as a major argument. The only problem is the Dominican faculty had to teach year-round. There were no holidays. They worked 6 days a week. There was no summer, I think they got Christmas off and Good Friday. That was it. This went on, an unbelievable dedication here. The Army Specialized Training Program was then sought and brought in when 563 military trainees arrived at PC on July 7th, 1943. That sealed it. PC closure was averted, again by dramatic effort. Father Dillon averted the takeover of PC in another incident, because shortly after that, some admiral showed up and kept climbing up to the top of buildings. He was going to make this a hospital. He stayed around for a couple of days looking at it, didn't tell anybody who he was. Oh, yeah. Well, nursing isn't one of my specialties. Okay. In spring 1944, the fifth president, Father Foley, said, okay, we have to stay. This is not a good place for a hospital. And he pledged that PC would continue the traditional liberal arts program in sound moral training, philosophy, languages, the social sciences, the natural sciences, so students would be educated in mind, will, and body, and thus inevitably in soul. Father Foley returned to the tri-semester program, kept it going, and opened PC doors to the veterans on the GI Bill. We had, in this building, 6 men in a room, which we barely can fit 3 as a triple. Most of them should be doubles. And they thought it was luxury because they had a sink in the room that they could share, only 6. Amazing here. Crisis met as challenge, ended again in triumph, and PC forged forward in enrollment and a major post-war building program. All this progress was again challenged by enrollment crisis under the 8th president, the great William Haas, when PC faced national educational trends of declining enrollments in an all-male colleges across the nation. His solution was to go to the corporation saying, we have to go co-ed. Oh dear, Pandora's box. All right, the idea of co-education was supported by students, except the seniors. They were annoyed that you're going to bring it in after we're gone. It was opposed by alumni. It was opposed by a great majority of the faculty, but there was a small percentage of faculty who were enthusiastic, but most faculty said this, about 1/3 reluctantly agreed, okay, we have to go co-ed. It's a painful necessity. These are words that they used at the time. If the college is to survive, we'll have to let the girls in. Oh God, okay. There has remained, however, for the next 2 decades, a vocal 25% who are adamant that women should not have been admitted. And it was a very poor idea. Resigning for personal reasons, Father Haas left, and left the implementation of this controversial issue of co-education to the 9th president, Thomas R. Peterson, who started in July of 1971. I showed up in September of 71 as one of the first 6 women in this building. It was the first women's dorm. Oh yeah, I'm not even going into pull your shades down at 6, sign out to go to mass. It was very strange, very strange. But crisis became challenge. All PC presidents were builders and continue to be. But it was this president, Peterson, who redirected the future of PC at this juncture, in this moment in time, from a small college to a national small university stature. He began a gargantuan building program directed toward academic and athletic improvement. He vowed, to successfully implement co-education. And despite opposition, the first night I was on duty, we had a panty raid. I was like, are you guys crazy? This is 1971. Who has panty raids? We'll open the window and throw them out. Go home. And I'm watching them, and I'm an RA, and I'm saying, and I got all these 18-year-olds crying because they don't, and it was led by the men's basketball team and some of our greatest male athletes that ever played for PC. I will leave their names unnamed. The good news is we won a game a couple months later. They came for the panty raid. All the girls ran out and embraced everybody. So that was the end of that nonsense. But it was incredible here, and we still had faculty walking into class, secular and Dominicans, who would say, "Good morning, gentlemen," although there were women students in the room. I used to raise my hand if anyone. No, I'm kidding. Maureen McKenna Goldberg used to raise, and I see somebody else who probably raised her hand there. Wanda was part of the Wanda, Brenda, Eva crowd from that first class. Okay, PC was at a crossroads here. Her affable president with a ready smile, T.R. Peterson, was also there was other things there. He was a Viking tiger, ferocious in fostering both PC tradition and innovation. And Father Peterson cautiously, sagely, and with unmatched diplomacy, pulled off a coup people forget. All right, he negotiated the purchase of the adjacent Chapin Hospital property from the city of Providence. We had been renting Fennell Hall, which was called something else, for $1 a year. He was able to get this. This single success nearly doubled the physical size of PC. And in his 14-year tenure, he effectively refurbished the lower, or I'd like to call it the East Campus. And then working and supporting an exceptionally gifted, intelligent, he knew he had something that rarely you see. He put around him people as smart or smarter than him. And that's the best model for successful business. Most people are afraid to do that, okay? But he had giants. Morris, we just lost him. Foster, John Peterson, McBrien, Walter Heath, and the brother who ran the graduate program, oh my God, Mark Heath, brilliant. Father Duffy, urbane and friend of Haas, okay? These, with Peterson, planned a Camelot of growth and development academically, fiscally, and physically. And Peterson urged the further development of graduate PhD programs, got the corporation to approve the founding of the first law school, which is still on the table. I get nervous with some of these, that what we could do, the would-haves, could-haves win, okay? But something happened, next crisis. On December 13th, 1977, Father Peterson faced one of the gravest crises in PC history. At 3 a.m., a devastating fire in Aquinas Hall on 4th floor north caused the eventual death of 10 women students. And injury, even to this day, still suffered both physical and psychological to dozens of others. The PC community was traumatized. The PC fire was garishly ranked in the top 10 news stories of the decade. I learned to hate news. This room, we brought the bodies down here. They were standing at the door taking pictures, the news people. I said, this has got to stop. I looked and I said to the fireman, please, these are our girls. Don't leave them here. Take them through that door into the chapel. That's where they'll be closer to going home to the ultimate victory. Don't leave them here to become this, and that's what we did. It was an incredible situation, but the thing that we don't remember, and it was true, outsiders predicted lawsuits which would have financially destroyed the college. You know, never mind all the loss and our feelings, we were that close. Father Peterson here turned crisis into challenge and challenge into triumph. His heroic paternal concern led mourning, shocked student, faculty, alumni, and administrative groups to a new familial consciousness. Out of grief and tragedy, the PC family emerged. It was a wonderful time and the best of times and the worst of times. Criticism of some of his brethren that Father Peterson gave too much to the girls was endured, and endured for a long time. Peterson put together a dedicated team to turn crisis into triumph. I'm going to tell you a secret because they're dead, okay? And they won't be upset with me now. 2 years later, 3 Dominican curmudgeons, nicest way I can put it. The Dominicans will know of whom I speak. They were anti-co-ed, anti-Peterson, just anti pretty much everything. They were discussing the fire. The priests were Father Al Mailer, Francis Neely, and Luke Lennon. Ring any bells? Okay. One of their brethren, Father Collins, came in to lunch. He saw them sitting. The last thing he wanted to do was sit down with this crowd. And they were like, TA. So he came over and he sat down. And he's the one who told me the story. They were discussing the fire. And they said, look, PC's here. No one sued us. It's unbelievable what's happened. We've decided crisis, we've survived the crisis because of 5 people. And TA said, oh, okay, and who might that be? And he said, well, the president, Father Peterson, the 3 of them. The chaplain, Father Jack Reed. The director of residence, Father Walter Heath. The treasurer, Father John Peterson. And the assistant director, director of residence for women. They included 1 woman. It was perhaps symbolically, I think, at this moment, that even the worst critics said, look, they realized that the admission of women undergraduates saved the college financially, academically, and socially. A triumph not always fully realized by subsequent administrations. I guess it's my little dig for today. Okay. The last crisis to challenge I want to address in the here and now in the 21st century. PC is caught up right now in, as a historian, I would say, the societal electronic explosion in this most accelerated phase of the continuum of industrial revolution. Didn't you like that phrase? You're just lucky it's not going to be on an exam for you. Secular values challenge the 800-year-old Dominican pedagogic scholastic system. The Walmart corporate model has influenced hiring practices here. We have a bloated middle management. There's so many problems as we move away from what is our identity. The importance of faculty has been dismissed curtly. One vice president, I'll leave nameless, said, look, tenured faculty are a necessary evil. That's not a good starting idea if you want collaborative work here. Loyalty to the college is often viewed as a liability. I debated whether or not to tell you about an incident that left me speechless. Most of you know me. Have you ever seen me speechless? I was on the elevator, and there was a young faculty on the elevator. We were going down 1 floor, and they were discussing the terrible state of morale on campus. And one turned to the other and said, we are never going to have good morale until we face the fact that we can't have a Dominican as president. My mouth dropped open. I had nothing to say. I was speechless. And I thought to myself, you're missing the essence that's here. PC needs more Dominicans, not less, more philosophy and theology requirements, more empowerment of the faculty. Maybe if they were more empowered, they'd stop in this crazy, infighting in the Senate and in departments. We need people to work here who believe in the Catholic and Dominican identity in its broadest and most inclusive definition, a definition that, say, Pope Francis would give, not Pope Benedict. Okay, we can't deal with the small church idea. We need Catholic to be what it is, universal and Dominican. We need more daily masses. We need more Saturday vigil masses. We need to use PC retired faculty so that we get variations in the preaching, all right, like the Jesuits do. Hint, hint, hint. They use all of their people for all of their masses. We limit that, and we should not. With the American Catholic school system breaking down on the primary, secondary, and collegiate levels, PC should actively recruit male and female, religious, freed, to serve. We need to put together another PC family. And I'm going to say we need a graduate school with a graduate dean instead of making you do 17 jobs. All right? That gives us academic, what shall I say, respect. When you have a graduate program, we had PhDs successfully in chemistry and history, and Peterson was thinking of moving into theology. We had the staff. We never got the law school, but maybe we can work in this direction. We need an administration to become more collaborative, less defensive of turfs, and make every effort to avoid the tempting business mantra that's haunting us. Look good. Don't worry about being good. We can't live with that. All right, we have to be good. We have to seek truth. From the overabundance of middle management, apply the funds to scholarship for minorities. So I'm still here all these years later, and there was more diversity in my neighborhood in Yonkers, New York. It's amazing to me. All right, we need to do things to plan and make it easier for better handicap access to our buildings and vehicular egress. We're making it more difficult for people to get to things. This would bring in students, again, diversity in student, faculty, and staff. I think small things we used to do should come back. We should frequently praise and thank the cleaning, maintenance, physical plant, and food service workers. We don't do it. You know, we outsource it. We have to engender in the community a loyalty and love of this Dominican institution. Spend less on faculty researchers and encourage seasoned faculty to continue to teach. Reward loyalty. Avoid so many of the pitfalls of modern, designs. There's the Ivy Leagues are publishing articles now about how do we recover the academic health of an institution. If the crisis is not viewed as challenge, all right, to bolster the Dominican intellectual tradition of liberal arts, then we're going to lose. We need a primary curriculum that does also embrace business and professional training, but not at the expense of, okay, the 800-year pedagogy. And that's the greatest danger I see now. PC will, if we don't do this, PC will be no different than other U.S. less expensive secular colleges and university, and why not go there instead of here? We must affirm who we are with generous tolerance and encouragement of faculty, staff, and students to believe that the unique character of the 800-year-old Dominican pedagogy will endure and triumph. Maybe we'll finally be audacious enough to raise the title that we reserved in the 1950s. Maybe it's time in the next 100 years to call ourselves the University of Providence as we embark on this next getting ready. I looked around the room. I think Ava, my grandniece, and Foster are probably 2 and 4, and Adeline might be the only ones here for that celebration because life expectancy by then will be 102, 104. I can guarantee I won't be here. Maybe some of you others will be. I do say this, we need to embark. We need to look at what we are. We need to, don't be cowed by crisis. Turn it into challenge and triumph. And lastly, we need to laugh. We don't laugh enough. And stop criticizing so much. And rededicate ourselves to the marvelous, unique Dominican entity that we call Providence College. And you're awfully good for listening to all of this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, my God. Oh, Lord. I was told to stay here for a minute.
You have to move out of the way, though.
I don't know if he's going to fire me. I didn't say anything bad about him today.
No, you didn't. No, and I'm not the vice president you mentioned either. But your remarks were really well taken, and we do have a challenge in front of us, and thank you for setting that challenge for us. Those of you who don't read the Faculty Senate list may not have seen the effusive adjectives that faculty have put out there in honor of Donna. and you matched all of those adjectives, even though there are more there that could have been said. On behalf of Father Shanley, who can't be here today, the other 11 people who are retiring, who collectively have contributed 427 years of service to the college, 44 of which is here.
Do I wish I was 44?
Yeah, I bet. We want to thank all of the retirees, but particularly Donna for her willingness to stand up and tell her story on behalf of the other 11 and to educate us about the history of Providence College. So, for your honor, we should probably move to get out. So we can,
And I should get a little control and drop the book. Maybe it will get re-edited.
congratulations, Donna.
Thank you. All righty.
Please join us for a reception now, and thank you.